The following program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.
Hello, and let's welcome Senator Avard. Senator Avard, what are you going to do about everything up there in Concord?
Oh, I don't know if I can do anything.
We really fought a hard battle, and we got a good budget that went through.
We got a good budget, and on every level we had resistance. And we had a slim margin in the House, which was very, you have to have a lot of negotiations going on when that happens. And there are a few that will be holdouts, for various reasons. And the Republican Party really is, in all intents and purposes, probably the biggest umbrella of politicians up there. Because you have libertarians, you have conservatives, you have hyper-conservatives, moderates and whatnot. And within that group, you have to come up with a consensus. And there's usually one or two holdouts for various reasons. One could be for executive powers or abortion issues or school funding, a whole host of reasons. And of course, there's a ton of opposition on the other side because they want to spend the heck out of this. They want an income tax, is what they want, by Democratic counterparts. But yeah, we have a good budget, and it does a lot of things. It's probably one of the best budgets, somebody said, that we've had in probably 50 years. So I wasn't there 50 years ago, so it's not my fault. But yeah, there's a lot going on. And
well, it reminds me a bit about 2011 when we came in, we were facing a $1 billion budget shortage.
Right.
And we had to do things, and it came out pretty well, even though there was some hurt there, but it worked out well. And it took them 8 years to go back into the spending binge.
And which they did. And they even spent a lot of the rainy day fund, which we built back up to, for some magical reason, $158 million. Having gone through the pandemic, it's good to have some money set aside in the rainy day fund. The rainy day fund is there for emergencies.
It helped us a lot when it was needed. You could always know that there was money for the emergencies.
Exactly. And it also helps out with our bonding. If you have a certain amount, that's the magical number. They wanted to put some more into it, but then it doesn't make sense to have way too much. But enough to give us the best bond rating so that we can borrow money if necessary at a lower rate. Keeping in mind that the taxpayers are the number one issue in this particular budget. And we've sent a lot of tax relief to the local towns, municipalities. And I got a list of things that we have done. But I think one of my biggest concerns is, even though we passed a very good budget, we earmarked $50 million more going to the towns through meals and rooms tax. We're getting rid of the interest and dividends tax. That alone, just the interest and dividends tax, we're phasing it out. We were told by the opposition, by the Democrats, that, well, you can't phase that out because you're only favoring the rich. Well, if I understand correctly, people save all their lives. They put their money in their 401ks. They do the right things. They pay the taxes all along the way, and then they retire. Somehow they're considered the rich because they're living off their interest. The fact is that New Hampshire does have an income tax. It is called the interest and dividends tax. And that right now is what people are living on. And that's called a fixed income. Maybe supplemented with Social Security in addition to that. But that's what they have. And now you're calling them rich, and for some reason you're being penalized. So what we've said is, look, enough of this. We're phasing it out. Keep your money and use it. We send $100 million back for property tax relief. Now, the problem with that is we have, in our local town of Nashua, we have the mayor saying, well, it's the state's fault because your property taxes are higher. Now, if we send $100 million back, we send $50 million back in addition to the rooms and meals that you're able to keep more of it. How are you going to relieve the property tax owners, or are you going to spend it? The question is, will the mayor and the alderman reduce your property taxes? That's a huge question, and that I feel very sanguine about it because I don't think that it's in their blood to do so. We're sending money back. We put in, now my bill 109, SB 109, allows the municipalities to generate their own electricity. We have 2 hydro dams here in Nashua. Clean energy. You're not going to have to use the transmission lines. We have aggregation so you can group meter. We're lowering, hopefully, the municipal's energy costs. Will that savings be passed on to the customer? You see it in the marketplace where, well, hey, we're going to reduce these costs. These costs are going to go to you. Well, the taxpayers are the customers. They're the ones who are paying the freight. It's time that when we send money back, instead of you crying saying, it's trickle down,
Don't use it for your favorite little job there and a little job there that makes you look a little bit bigger.
Right. Give it back to
Yeah.
the taxpayers. Rebate it. It's time. That interest and dividends tax is huge for the people on a fixed income. Yeah, there are some rich people that are benefiting from that, but there are also some people that are struggling. And you don't punish those people that are struggling just because there are a few rich people out there. It doesn't make sense.
And don't forget that investment that they've made is the investment that keeps business going.
Right.
Okay, you're going to take that away from them, or you're going to, charge them too much in taxes on that. Well, you're actually taking it out of the funds that helps the companies to grow.
It is, and New Hampshire's doing really well right now. I had some notes. I have a couple notes.
You have a couple of notes. You did a wonderful job here. The state has put together an 8-page list of all the benefits that came out from balancing the budget and tweeting a lot of legislation for things you can and can't do.
Yeah, if I can just go through a few bullet points. First of all, we're just talking about New Hampshire. We're tied for the lowest unemployment in the nation. We have the lowest poverty rate in the nation. Among the most livable states, blah, 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 cut taxes for Main Street. We've reduced taxes for the BET, Business Enterprise Tax, and the Business Profit Tax. And that helps businesses.
Well, it's been helping them for at least the last 5 years. And what they have done, and the people, I don't know if they don't read the paper or what, but they actually have collected more taxes when they cut the rate.
Ronald Reagan, are you trickle down doesn't work? Well, maybe not, but it seems to be working here.
Right.
We exempted the Paycheck Protection Program for loans for the business property tax. That helps the small businesses. We reduced the rooms and meals tax by 8.5%. It was 9. In my humble opinion, it should be 7, but whatever. And it helps the hard-hit restaurants. We increased the filing threshold for the business enterprise tax. I think it was down to $50,000. Now it's back up to $75,000. Again, helping the small businesses. $50,000. Yeah. We increased we phased out the interest and dividends tax. Record business tax revenues are high. We provided $400,000 in funding for regional economic development corporations. And we had Elizabeth Gray on my show.
Yeah.
The better of the shows that we have here. No, I'm kidding. We provided full funding for the Small Business Development Center. And we're going to be meeting with them next week at Riviera College. But this organization, I think we put in $400,000 to $500,000, and they really do help out.
They do.
A lot of small businesses. Paul with Pro Nails in Nashua, he had an emergency that he had to move. They came in and they helped with some of the negotiations. Olga's dress, she's the seamstress. She's helped out with them. There are a number of people, a lot of people that are startups. you got a small business, you don't know where to go, you got an idea, and you got the drive. This is the organizations that helps you start up, and it'll give you advice as you go along. And that's the bloodline. That's the mainstream of New Hampshire, is these small businesses. They're popping up everywhere. So we've invested some money into that. And actually, it should be more, but that's still a big help. We sent $100 million back into direct property tax relief. $188 million from meals and rooms revenue back to the cities. An increase of $50 million over the last budget, spearheading by Senator Ricciardi. And that's not one-time spending.
No.
Every year it's going to be going back, because now it's going into a trust before it goes into the general fund. So it gets pushed back to the towns. For years, what has happened is the rooms and meals tax, it's been pilfered.
No, they use it for other things.
Right. Pilfered. That's, yeah.
More urgent things.
More urgent things. Now this way, it will go back to the towns for relief. So we have so the rooms and meals tax. The revenues will be going back, and revenue sharing of 30%, sending additional $50 million back every year. We provided $294 million in local aid for municipalities for the roads, for the bridges. There are a lot of red listed bridges out there that need some repair, so we're sending that money back. For sewer projects, a lot of people don't know that's a big need, especially in some of the older cities.
Oh yeah, some stuff, some of our equipment and facilities are just falling apart.
Yeah, and you need that relief.
It's age to get some of it. 50 years or 60 years old, or maybe even older.
Yeah, and before you fix those potholes, make sure that you pick the drain. You take care of the drains that are underneath those potholes. Then fix the potholes, so you don't have to.
So you're not tearing it up again.
And it happens.
Oh yeah,
it happens. Oh yeah, we didn't do that, and so that's one of the areas. In every area that I've just told you, the Democrats resisted. They voted no, and it's heartbreaking, because we should be able to come together in a consensus on.
You don't get any of them. Is that they vote like a block?
Pretty much, and yet the having resistance even on our side, that's where a lot of the negotiations went, because we had dialogue. Instead of the naysaying and their narrative posturing, we got stuff done. My biggest
concern.
concern.
Accomplish a lot.
Oh,
a lot. I mean,
there's
just
a lot
the
more.
magnitude of it, let alone the intricacies that went along with it.
But if we send the money back, will the mayor and the local alderman give you tax relief? Or will they say it's downshifting and blaming the state for your high property taxes? Keep in mind, we put in SB 52. SB 52 basically reinvigorated part of the charter that was adopted years ago. I believe it was in 1993. And the reason they adopted the spending cap here in Nashua was because Mayor Donchis had an issue because he loves to spend your money. Nice guy, but he spends your money. And that's the thing. When these people are very free with your money, hey, it's a party.
They'll spend it before they've earned it, is what.
Basically. And he can be a very friendly guy, but he's also very friendly with your money and with your local property taxes. And that is a problem. The spending cap was there and was voted on by the people in Nashua, so that it doesn't do anything other than puts a little bit more transparency on how they do business here in Nashua. If they're going to go over the budget, then you need to have a supermajority. And they're crying over that. They're balking over that. Well, we're not going to be able to get government grants because of it. That's not true. It's not true. You can always go over it with a supermajority. Well, what does the supermajority mean? It means that everybody is going to be accountable for the money that they spend. They don't want that. That's why they're crying. That's why they're balking. And they don't want you, the public here in Nashua, to know that they're spending your money in ways that they don't have to be accountable right now.
Well, you can see that with the Theater of the Arts and project, how that has just expanded, how they've eliminated some of the conditions that were set when they started the program.
Mm-hmm.
And they're still not, clear how over the budget they are from what they originally proposed.
You know, the arts is a really tricky thing because years ago I participated in Concord with Hand Me the Brick. And this was at the Concord City Auditorium. And what we did in order to restore the City Auditorium, we had community people get involved. And we put on concerts, we put on plays, and we got donations from the McCurleys. They used to own Genesis is now, it used to be called McCurleys. And there were a whole host of businesses out there that we actually went to and said, look, we'd like to restore the City Auditorium. So Sandcastle Productions put on in the old dilapidated building concerts and plays. And we raised money to refurbish it. The Capitol Arts Center, the same thing. So we had community involvement. It wasn't just hey, we're going to spend the money, from the city. It was a joint effort. What's being done in Nashua is just being pushed down the taxpayers' throats, and it's causing angst. Yes, there are people that are, hey, we got an art center, and there are other people saying, look, I'm not going to go to it. Why am I going to pay for it? And of course, the same reasoning can be with schools and things of that nature. I'm old. I don't use the schools anymore. Blah blah blah. But it's being jammed down their throats, and then it's being bonded out, and it's a boondoggle. Who's going to profit off this? Who's going to own it? Does the city own it? Who's going to manage it? Where's the money going to come from? What is going to be the final cost? And when you look at the design, it is my understanding there's not even an orchestra pit in this place that's going to be built. And yet we have the Key Center, the largest in the state. It holds more seats than anybody. What's going to happen to that? And it's a historical building. Why couldn't we just made that a little better?
Right.
And keep the genre of the Key Center alive and more workable. So that's an area where that's just one project. So I think we need to hold these people a little bit more accountable because they love to spend your money. And then if you don't agree with them, there's really a holier than thou attitude. Like, hey, you're the unwashed. And people are getting kind of sick of that. Education funding. In the previous year, there was a proposal of an extra $1 billion for funding from the Democrats, which the Republicans basically did stop. And that is one of the areas where that would have forced an income tax in New Hampshire. We provided $100 million in cuts to statewide education property tax, providing direct relief to every granted stater. The language in SB 135 is included in the deal with the COVID-related enrollments. Senator Hennessy created a relief fund, which provided an additional $35 million to the state schools, which they need. I don't know if I can go over all these. We had a great budget. There was another one, protecting life. That's an issue with a lot of us. We don't want to pay for abortions. A lot of people don't want to pay for abortions.
That's
one area where we held strong. And also there is a new restriction. Yeah, after 6 months, the child is 6 months old in the womb. That has been
they're viable,
right,
and that should not allow killing it.
And school choice was another area. And one of the things about school choice, whether it's a charter school, private school, if you're in that 300% poverty rate, Carl, those people that are struggling financially don't have the choice to go to BG or a private school. They don't have that opportunity. School choice allows that. These schools, it's a national epidemic where kids are stuck in a situation where the status quo doesn't meet their needs. and they're falling through the cracks. They're dropping out, they're tuning out, and they're not becoming productive. The institutions are not there for the institution's sake. They're there for the children's sake. And when some of the children are not, their needs are not being met, that's a failure. Giving them the option, creating that competition helps everybody. And school choice, and we've really done a good job with that this year, does allow that kid that is tuning out to maybe go to a micro school or a charter school, the Science Academy, which is nationwide. Everybody knows that that is one of the top schools in the country of its like.
That's right.
Here in Nashua, New Hampshire, but not everybody can afford to go there. Well, this allows those kids that
And there are other private schools too.
Oh,
that
there's
are
plenty.
allowed. So I think that's what that diversity is what you're pointing out, and the atmosphere or the techniques are more, I don't know, interesting to the kids and gets them to want to learn. I don't know if you've ever been to any of those charter schools and you've seen how interested they are.
It's when learning is fun.
Yeah.
It's really not learning. It's just you're being educated, and the drive is there. The light bulb turns on, and the drive to learn is there. And I think that's one of the things that institutions can lose. They've got their agendas, they've got their protocols, and sometimes those don't meet the child's needs. It's not winner take all with education. You've got to provide that option for those kids. I was one of those kids. Dyslexia, just tuning out. I can every year it was just painful watching the smart kids just advance, and I just didn't get it. And come to find out, I just learned differently. As soon as you put a saxophone in my hand, gave me some music, talked a little bit about science, Mr. Muse in 6th grade at Temple Street School, I could still see the chalkboard where we looked at the cells and photosynthesis, and he related that as he taught us how to care for plants in the classroom. It was totally different type of learning. At the end of the year, he bought those plants that we grew from us, so we actually made cash. So he taught us economics. He taught us science. Mr. Muse was amazing. And my teeny little light bulb started going off because he presented science in a different way.
Yeah.
Why is it important? How does it work? Why does it apply to you? How can you get engaged with it? Not all schools can do that, but when you have a micro society or school like that draws that can hone in on where that kid's interest is, you can learn anything. And the excitement, the drive just goes through the roof. So I think that's one of our big accomplishments as well.
And I think that the people that are against it don't understand how really they're getting a bargain, because the school is still getting a part of the
public school.
The public school is still getting part of the students' state support.
Right. So the buildings, the infrastructure is still there. They're getting their money no matter what. And the charter schools are doing it in a fraction of the cost, getting a better product for a particular child than previous.
And they have to pay their taxes on their facility.
That's right.
Tax
public schools don't. But some of the charter schools are public as well.
Yeah.
They're just not unionized. And so, we're offering a whole host of things with this budget. We did a lot of good things in this particular last session.
Well, I think we have a good argument coming legislative session to continue with looking at what we can do better, less money.
And we really need to help out with property tax relief.
Right.
I really can't stress enough how that your local politicians, your local school boards, your local aldermen, your local mayors or city managers, they're the ones, when we send back the money, They're the ones who are either going to spend it or give you property tax relief. Be honest. Be honest with yourself. Do you think this particular mayor, this particular board of aldermen and school board are going to send money back to the taxpayers? Or do you think that they will find a way to spend it and then blame it on the state? And I think that's where we're at. We can send billions of dollars back to this town and they'll find a way to spend it. It's time to change leadership. And
I think some of our towns need to be shaken up. And
Just to- yeah.
that goes for the whole United States. There's a lot of towns that need to be shaken up.
It does, and it doesn't have to be one party fits all. You can have a good dialogue when there's an even balance of power. That way, iron sharpens iron. But when it's one party fits all, that's you don't want it all Republican. You don't want it
You
all
just want
Democrat.
to balance so you hear both sides of the
You need
story,
to.
and you choose one, and maybe you mix them somehow. But Kevin, we're coming to the end of the time, but I wanted to mention one other thing. The mental health work is something we can discuss on our next time.
And we did help out with that. That's
We did a lot on that, and
Yeah.
I still think there's more to be done.
We did fund $30 million for a new psychiatric facility, which was part of the prison system. That's something that we actually had people on my show that were in that institution, and it was treated like a prison. Well, that doesn't
You
help.
don't do it.
Yeah.
But that's what we're saving for the next time
All
we
right.
go out, Kevin, and we'll talk some more about how we can do better for the state.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thanks for having me on the show.
You're welcome.
The preceding program was provided by an independent producer solely responsible for its content. The opinions expressed do not necessarily represent the views of this station, its staff, board of directors, or underwriters.